Batman 409, continuing the post-crisis Batman, and we are doing these in release order. So even, and the reason why I mentioned that is that so obviously we're doing a Batman Detective, and that'll be true most weeks. That'll change eventually when there's like a third book, and it'll be kind of two of the three, and it'll kind of go through them. But we have actually checked. I went through and very, very meticulously checked the release dates for every Batman Detective, so that, for example, when the Batman annual is, I think, will be in next week's episode, that'll actually screw up the order, or when I say order, I mean it'll screw up the system where it'll switch to the following week being Detective then Batman, because we're going to do them in release order, even on the same episode. So Batman 409 did come first. That's the important part here. So Batman 409, Max Allan Collins writing with Ross Andrew on the art. This is the second part of the Jason Todd origin story. That we of course started. To its credit, I actually remembered really well. What the previous part of this was. Nothing about it felt hard to remember. I
think it helps that it's quite an iconic story. Not that it was like amazing, but more just we all know the story of the early Jason Todd days. With the stealing the tires, for example. I
remember. I mean, I knew about stealing the tire. I didn't know anything about this Magun character. I was surprised when Magun popped up at the end of the last issue.
Oh yeah, you didn't, did you? Okay.
But that was memorable. We come back at this issue and she tells her ruffians to snuff out Jason. She's actually wanting them to kill him until he shows that he can fight, and he was actually brought by Batman to just avoid going to child services. And then she's like, "Oh, a potential student of mine then. In that case, show him to a room, and we'll train him in our ways, in our thug life ways." Magun, who I think is Australian. I actually thought she was English until she said she was from Down Under at one point. And I was like, oh, okay.
And Bruce says good day to her at one point. Like, just to, like, be a bit shitty. Yeah. Like, just playing the stereotype. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to feel that bad when she's training like a gang of thugs. I don't know. It's like,
but he doesn't know that at that point. He's just...
No, he doesn't.
Playing stereotypes to the Aussie.
He ends up there because he's actually trying to find Jason's parents, or the records of his parents, and ends up running into Vicky Vale, who's doing a piece, like a profile piece on Crime Alley and the Magun School for Boys and blah blah blah. And they end up there, and she's keeping up appearances. She's making it look like she's just teaching normal classes, but as soon as everyone goes, she's like, okay, let's get back to our actual lesson. And she's basically got them debating the benefits of a revolver versus a semi-automatic. And stuff like that, and there's kind of a running gag throughout the issue where she keeps correcting their grammar and their vocabulary, where they'll just phrase things the wrong way. In fact, there was one or two of them that I have to admit I didn't notice because my mind just assumed I read the right thing because it was what fit into the sentence.
Where it's there's specific things where it's like just the wrong word entirely.
Yeah. But I read the right word because my mind just made sense of it. It was because there was one really early on. It's when Jason's fighting them at the start, and yeah. So the actual line of dialogue is, "We'll learn him how," and she corrects the "learn" part as well because it's like, no, we'll teach him obviously. We'll learn him how to hold his breath underwater for an expensive period of time. But when I actually read it, I just read extensive because extensive is the word that's obviously supposed to be, and my brain just made sense of it.
Yeah, but like I say, there are points where it's just like normal teaching stuff. Where I think one of the kids say, it don't hold as many, and she's like, no, doesn't hold. I had to really try hard to say that wrong then. I really struggled.
It wasn't until she corrected it I went, wait, that's what he said. And I went back and went, oh no, he didn't. He said expensive. All right, okay, fair enough. Is just an example of how your brain actually sometimes takes the framework of something and just kind of makes it work.
It's the whole thing where as long as the first and last letter are in the right place, you can kind of jumble up all the rest of the letters, and your brain will just go, it makes sense. That's what makes sense in this sentence. So that's what you'll see it as.
So, and they're going to rob, jewels from a museum or gallery,
for the
or whatever.
Joker.
Sorry?
For the Joker.
Is it for the Joker?
That's who they're selling it to. Yeah, it's the Joker's men who want the jewel. This specific jewel. That's the thing that he just got caught trying to steal, apparently, and it's his men that have like hired. That are going to buy it.
I mean, I remember her saying to them that this is what the Joker was trying to steal, I never actually caught the part where they're going to sell it to him.
She explicitly says he's the buyer at one point.
Okay. So Batman gets some info on Todd's parents from Gordon, who's looked into it, and Batman is there's a whole bit where Batman always comes back to Crime Alley every year on the anniversary of his parents' death, to the point where the criminals actually kind of gotten used to this, so they all just kind of hide for that night. And there's a segment where some college kids are trying to buy drugs from the street punk, but the street punk was kind of like double-crossed them, and something like a gang jumps out and attacks them to steal all their money. And Batman shows up, and they're like, "What? But no, this is you're going to be back for a year. What are you doing here, Batman?" So that's a bit of a commentary in and of itself, that Batman's this like scheduled that they're able to work around it.
I like he's like, surprise inspection, keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and he tells the college kids to go home and keep their noses clean. Which that's the other scene with my gun that made me laugh, is one of the kids tries to smoke and she basically smacks his face and says
it's weed that he's smoking specifically.
But she smacks his face and says, "Stick to the booze, boys." And I'm like, this is really
She's
weird.
Like, it was good enough for my son, so it'll be good enough for you. God rest their souls.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, maybe that's a sign.
Yeah. But anyway, so this other random guy gets his tires stolen, and Batman's like, "Wait a minute, that little shit Jason." So he goes and finds him and makes him give the tires back. And Jason tells him everything about my gun, that she's this weird crook who wants to train all these boys to be like proper criminals. And he doesn't really believe her, but he mentions the heist. Batman goes to, of course, intervene. And the other big thing here is that Jason ends up saving his ass because he's going to get flanked from behind. And Jason, yells, "Watch out, Batman," and ends up getting a few punches in himself.
Which is a nice kind of wrap around, because there's a point early on where, in that, I think it is in that early fight, where Batman, does get hit from behind. He's like, damn, I'm getting sloppy. Got too used to having Robin, watch my back. Yeah,
so after the foiled heist, Batman offers him a lift, and as they're driving away, Batman just calls him Robin, and Jason's like, "Robin?" And Batman smirks, and he's like, "Robin," and that's just the end of the story. That's not bad. It's kind of, I mean, the Magod stuff is kind of funny. I mean, if nothing else, it's so.
It kind of works well enough, yeah.
Yeah, it's so over the top in how sort of dastardly she is. It definitely doesn't come across as an all-time serious, gritty Batman, even though it's kind of trying to tap into some themes of gritty stuff.
It's very aware that the Magan stuff's over the top, because it is literally, as soon as the camera crew's out, she's like, pulls down the things, like, right, on with our normal lessons, there's all the gun talk.
Yeah. So I had a fun time with the issue.
Yeah, me too.
I have very little to complain about. I couldn't take it too seriously, but that's okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as it's actually fun to read and I'm enjoying the story. It is very condensed. Like I think I was almost expecting more of a phasing in period. I wasn't expecting his entire origin to be essentially just 2 issues. With him at the end just going, "You're the new Robin now. I've decided right here on the spot."
You'll do.
But I mean, he has established he has no parents to go to. He's established he has some skills that may actually transfer into being Robin, and he has the temper that needs to be kind of honed and maybe, I don't know, what's the word? Nurtured. Go with nurtured.
Sure, nurtured works. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's probably the most likable Jason ever gets, is like in these issues.
And his origin story.
Yeah, he's terrible. Still, like, he's not good, but like at least he's not a complete shit yet. But he's not too annoying yet. But yeah, this is about as good as it gets.
Yes, I wasn't bothered by him in this story, which is a rare feeling with Jason, I have to admit.
They haven't developed his personality enough yet, that's why.
Yeah, not particularly likable either, admittedly. It's not like I was like, oh, this version of Jason's great.
It's just less offensive than usual.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. That's Batman 409. What are you rating the issue?
I'm going to give it a solid 7.
I agree with that. Solid 7 out of 10.